On October 13, 1917, 70,000 people stood in a muddy field in Portugal and watched the sun dance, change color, and plummet toward the earth. It was a mass celestial event witnessed by believers and atheists alike. But the real event wasn't in the sky. It was in the hands of a 10-year-old shepherd girl named Lucia Santos. She was given 3 secrets. The first 2, the vision of hell and the rise of World War II, were revealed and came to pass with terrifying precision. But the third was supposed to be opened in 1960. When 1960 arrived, the Vatican did something unprecedented. They refused to release it. They claimed the world wasn't ready. For 40 years, the Third Secret became the ultimate theological ghost. When it was finally revealed, in the year 2000, the Vatican presented a vision of a bishop in white being killed by soldiers. They told us it was a prophecy of the 1981 assassination attempt on John Paul II. Case closed. But the 2026 dossier, sourced from the private diaries of Cardinal Alfredo Ottaviani, reveals a lethal contradiction. The text released in 2000 was only 4 pages of a vision. It lacked the explanation. According to those who read the original before it was redacted, the true Third Secret isn't about an assassination attempt from the past. It is about a structural collapse happening now. It describes the Great Apostasy, starting at the very top of the hierarchy. Today, we look past the official press releases to find the missing words. We are entering the secret archives to see what they are so desperate to hide about the year we are living in. To understand the lie, we have to look at the timeline. Sister Lucia was adamant, the Third Secret was to be opened in 1960 because, in her words, by then, it will be clearer. In 1960, the Catholic Church was beginning the Second Vatican Council, a massive shift in liturgy, theology, and tradition. When Pope John XI finally read the secret in 1959, witnesses say his face turned pale. He immediately ordered the document back into the secret archives of the Holy Office. He issued a statement saying, "This does not concern my time." But the leaked memos from the 2026 investigation suggest a different reason for the silence. The secret didn't just predict a change in the Church, it warned that the change would be a diabolical disorientation. The dossier refers to a lost page, often called the Fourth Secret or the Annex. This page reportedly contains the words of the Virgin Mary herself, explaining the vision. And those words describe a false church rising from within the walls of the Vatican, a mimicry of the faith that would lead millions into a spiritual void. 1960 wasn't when it was clearer to the world, it was when the infiltration began. Let's analyze the official text released in 2000. It describes a bishop in white walking through a city in ruins, filled with the corpses of priests and lay people, before being shot by a group of soldiers on a hill. The Vatican told us this was John Paul II in 1981. But there are technical flaws in this explanation that the internal memos highlight as the forensic gap. First, John Paul II did not die. The vision explicitly states the bishop is killed. Second, the vision describes a city in ruins, a post-apocalyptic landscape. Rome was not in ruins in 1981. Third, and most importantly, the vision describes the bishop in white and the pope as potentially 2 different figures. In the original Portuguese text, Lucia uses a curious phrase, a mirror image. The leaked dossier suggests that the prophecy actually describes a two-pope era, a period of confusion where the true authority is hidden while a figurehead walks through the wreckage of the faith. The 2026 dossier connects this to the recent years of emeritus status and the unprecedented tension within the Vatican walls. The soldiers in the vision aren't external enemies, they are the executioners of a legacy. The ruins aren't physical buildings, they are the dogmas of a 2,000-year-old institution being dismantled from the inside. In 1984, long before the official reveal, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger gave an interview where he admitted he had read the secret. When asked why it wasn't revealed, he said it was to avoid sensationalism. But he let one detail slip. He said the secret concerned the dangers threatening the faith and the life of the Christian, and therefore the world. If The Secret was just about an assassination attempt in 1981, why did Ratzinger say in 1984 that it concerned the end times and the dangers to the faith? You don't keep a past event secret to protect the faith, you keep a future event secret because it's a threat to the current power structure. The 2026 dossier contains a transcript of a private conversation Ratzinger allegedly had with a priest in the 1990s. In it, he admits, there is more than what we will publish. The part about the great apostasy. It is too heavy. The dossier suggests that the core of the prophecy isn't about a bullet, it's about a loss of the sense of the sacred. It describes a time when the shepherds would become wolves, and the abomination of desolation would be set up in the holy place. This is what the church feared in 1960, and it is what they are witnessing in 2026. Every scholar of Fatima knows that Lucia's second secret ends with a mysterious, etc., followed by the third secret. The sentence reads, in Portugal, the dogma of the faith will always be preserved, etc. Grammatically, this implies that in other places, the dogma of the faith will not be preserved. The leaked dossier refers to this as the geographic terminal. It suggests that the third secret begins with a description of a global collapse of doctrine. Sister Lucia once wrote a letter to Cardinal Carlo Caffarra, stating, the final battle between the Lord and the kingdom of Satan will be about marriage and the family. This is the now. The 2026 dossier highlights that the prophecy specifically targets the destruction of the natural order as the sign of the final hour. The Secret isn't a museum piece from 1917. It is a live broadcast of the 21st century's ethical and spiritual meltdown. And according to the unreleased pages, there is a specific date when the eclipse of the church becomes total. The most chilling phrase found in the leaked 2026 notes regarding Sister Lucia's original Portuguese text is, O reflexo no espelho, the reflection in the mirror. In the official version released in 2000, the Vatican described a bishop in white. But the unredacted dossier suggests that Lucia saw two men. She described a vision where one appeared to be the Pope, but his movements were hollow, while another figure, hidden in the shadows of a great house, held the actual spiritual weight of the office. This is the two-pope anomaly that haunted the church for the last decade. The dossier suggests that the third secret specifically predicted the forced transition of the papacy, not as a simple retirement, but as a mystical decoupling. The prophecy warns that by 2026, the visible head of the church would be speaking a language that no longer matches the gospel. It describes a mirror church, an institution that looks like the original, but has had its internal code replaced. The internal memos call this the Great Mimicry. It is the moment when the shepherd begins to lead the sheep not to the pasture, but to the desert of inclusive humanism, where the supernatural is traded for the political. In a series of letters written by Sister Lucia in the early 1970s, she used a specific term over and over, diabolical disorientation. The 2026 dossier contains an analysis of these letters. Lucia wasn't talking about people being evil. She was talking about people losing the ability to distinguish truth from a lie. The prophecy warns that in the now, the mid-2020s, this disorientation would reach a fever pitch. It describes a time when cardinals will oppose cardinals, and bishops will oppose bishops. This isn't just a disagreement, it's a loss of the standard. The leaked memos from the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith admit that there is no longer a single, unified teaching. The disorientation has become the official policy. The Secret predicts that by 2026, the faithful would feel orphaned, as the voices they relied on for 2,000 years begin to harmonize with the spirit of the world. This is the eclipse mentioned in the La Salette and Fatima warnings. The light of the faith is still there, but a massive, dark body has moved in front of it, plunging the world into a spiritual cold. Why marriage? Why the family? Sister Lucia's letter to Cardinal Caffarra stated that the final battle would be focused here. The 2026 dossier connects this to a redacted section of the Third Secret that deals with the deconstruction of the image. The prophecy suggests that the enemy knows he cannot win a frontal war against God, so he attacks the icon of God on earth, the union of man and woman. The secret warns that in the final era, the definition of the human would be up for debate. We are seeing this now in the push for transhumanism, the blurring of biological realities, and the legal dismantling of the family unit. The Vatican memos suggest that the Church's sudden softening on these issues is exactly what the prophecy warned about. The wolves wouldn't attack from the outside, they would simply change the rules of the fold until the fold itself ceases to exist. Lucia's vision saw a wasteland of souls, and that wasteland was created by the destruction of the family, the basic cell of human society. When the cell dies, the body dies. Let's go back to the mud of 1917. 70,000 people saw the sun fall. Science tells us that if the sun had actually moved, the solar system would have been obliterated. Therefore, it was a visionary experience. But the 2026 dossier offers a third, more terrifying explanation: it was a kinetic warning. The internal Vatican memos discuss the Fatima solar connection. They suggest that the miracle of the sun was a preview of a future, geophysical event. The third secret reportedly contains a warning about a great fire that falls from the sky. But it's not just a meteor. It describes a total collapse of the magnetosphere. The dancing sun was a demonstration of what happens when the Earth's shield fails. The prophecy warns that this event is tied to the Great Apostasy. When the spiritual shield of the Church is removed through the loss of faith, the physical shield of the planet follows. The 2026 dossier connects recent unprecedented solar activity and the weakening of the Earth's magnetic poles to the timeline of the silent secret. The sun's dance in 1917 was a 109-year warning. And in 2026, the clock hits the final hour. Every secret ends with a promise: in the end, my immaculate heart will triumph. But the 2026 dossier asks the question the Vatican doesn't want to answer: what is left after the triumph? The unredacted pages describe a remnant. It doesn't describe the institution of the Vatican returning to its former glory. It describes a small, persecuted flock that survives the collapse. The triumph is not a political victory, it is a quantum rescue. The prophecy suggests that the triumph occurs at the moment of absolute darkness, when the false church has completely eclipsed the true one. The leaked memos mention a protocol of the underground. It suggests that the true third secret was a set of instructions for the end times remnant, how to maintain the faith when there are no more shepherds to be found. The now that the prophecy speaks of is the moment of the great choice. You either follow the bishop in white into the ruins, or you stay with the dogma of the faith that Lucia promised would be preserved in the hearts of the few. The Vatican told us the secret was over. They told us it belonged to the past. But the 2026 warning, the disorientation of our leaders, and the literal trembling of our sun prove otherwise. The third secret isn't a museum piece. It is a live, ticking bomb. As the hierarchy of the world crumbles, we are left with the etc. of Sister Lucia. The part they wouldn't print. The part that says the faith will be preserved always, but it doesn't say it will be preserved in Rome. The archive is open, but the decision is yours. Are we watching the end of a religion, or the birth of a new, purified world? What did the Pope see in 1960 that made him sweat? And why is the current Vatican Guard being increased in 2026? The dossier remains active. Stay vigilant. The sun is beginning to move again.